Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to this SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Eli as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track by an act named Official髭男dism titled Mixed Nuts, which as I understand it is the OP or the opening theme for the Spy X Family anime, which I'm actually a fan of. I do quite like that anime. I'm still catching up on it, but I'm probably going to do that over the weekend. So we're going to listen through this track from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Also, there are English subtitles, so I'm going to read as we go along. If I get lost, I'll go back and read over them before the conclusion. Very spooky with the haunted house. Mixed Nuts. Oh man, the swing groove with the bass off the bat. Shred's pretty crazy as well on the guitars. I mean, like, it's such an upbeat, funky little vocal line with the sinister nature of the music video. It's really compelling and engaging. Great, I like that unexpected chord coming in at this point. I like that we came into a chord that isn't like a root note of the key signature that we're in. It's unexpected. It makes the listener kind of do a double take. And there's a very smooth performance from the vocalist as well as everything else going on there with a really, those guitar lines were held back by the palm muting there as well, really subtle. Great use of dynamic range. Phenomenal use of brass as well. I mean, like, I'm really loving this band at the moment as well. I mean, like, I'm trying to sort of like not interrupt parts because I've been getting feedback, some videos as of late that I talk too much during reviews and I pause too much. So I'm trying to find a compromise here, but just phenomenal musicianship in that chorus section there with the bass line walking like that. The chord changes are difficult across the range of different instruments to cope with, and it's one thing that we were able to make a vocal line work with all those extended harmonies, but it's also just the inclusion of instruments that band doesn't seem to usually work with, like the brass, etc. I just can't, I can't get it, because I listened to Apoptosis or something like that, the previous track, and I can't get over how phenomenal these guys are as musicians. Switching to some sort of like jazz big band trap stuff going on with those. I mean, like, there is just so much stuff going on in this track that, like, I feel as if I was to pause every time something new happened, it would become infuriating for people. So the best summary I can give of this music at this point in time is that they create music which is made for people with attention deficit. They make music where, like, every couple of bars there is something new. There is a different change and transition. There are vocal, like, for instance, did you hear the very subtle vocal harmonies, the effects going on at that last section there with that major tone that switched there to the parallel major? There was always different drum grooves, fill parts there, little guitar lines going in and outwards there, occasionally beforehand, the bass line as well, kind of like stepping back to give the percussion more of a presence. It's just so wild, dude. It's unpredictable. I love it. The saxophones as well as the trumpets, aren't there? And that little stutter as well, little electronic stutter, that was phenomenal. It was unexpected. There's constant shifts and changes in there, which makes this music more compelling to listen to because it's fun. Sorry, can we take a moment to appreciate that guitarist over there has a Van Halen guitar? That looks like a legit Van Halen guitar as well. That is a legit Eddie Van Halen guitar that they have right there. That is wild stuff. No wonder they got the shred going strong. Is that one? Hang on, is that a 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 or is it a 1 and 2 and? Pretty sure it's a 1 2, so the tempo is phenomenally quick. I wasn't expecting that, dude. That's awesome. Oh, that was such a fun video. I got chills then. I actually got chills then. That was a phenomenal video. That was so much fun. I'm really stoked I got the opportunity to listen through that. Because this is my review, my conclusion of Mixed Nuts, a track by Official髭男dism. What I think this track is about, well, from what I got from the captions on a first listen basis, I think that it's talking about how we're all just people in one big bag of nuts, and we're all trying to sort of like figure out whether we want to be the same nut or a different one. Some people are peanuts, some people are cashews, some people are just, they're a nut we don't even understand. And I think that it's about realizing they're all different, but we're all in the same kind of place, and it's about just understanding it's just what it is. We're just a big sort of like melting pot of all these different people and all these different backgrounds. It's about trying to find connection and love and bonding over that and trying to understand each other. I think that's basically what this track is about. It's a great message, and I hope a lot of people listen to this and understand that. I think that this is a situation where I think that I don't want to get into the theme too quickly, but everything is already very well connected in my head from a review perspective. This is going to be quite a positive conclusion for several different reasons. But basically, moving on, the vocal performance was absolutely phenomenal. The singer just smashed it. They had that big band swagger, that aesthetic there, but then that is softness, some of the verse approaches and stuff. They handled it at all the various different perceived loudnesses, the choruses, the verses. When other instruments went away, they were able to construct melodies that harmonized well over the complexities of the various sort of like brass parts, the guitars, everything else there. It was wonderful. Were there keys in here? Definitely were keys in there as well. So there were harmonies on the keys as well. There were so many different instruments involved in this. And for the singer to be able to navigate the way they did was absolutely tremendous. In addition to that, I just think their personality and polish on the mic basically sold the story. And they had a sense of wanting people to connect and love each other and just have sort of faith and hope in each other. That was communicated well throughout the performance, and I'm really happy to have listened to him sing. But in addition to that, this track at 3 minutes 50, it's one of the best examples of fitting content into this form factor that I've seen in an incredible time. It's one of the very few tracks where I think it would not have been it in front of a specific sort of like lead section, because what they managed to do there was they managed to make a track that was just as engaging with the accompaniment as the vocals, and they found this absolute phenomenal sweet spot between having technicality in the instrumental performances and still allowing the vocals to shine. If we go through the instruments individually, the drum parts with the string grooves there on the triplet, sort of, 1 and 2 in the parts there, that quick tempo is really sensational, but also we had drum fills, little drum solo parts, we had sort of snare and tom elements there, and we understood how to break those beats apart as well to accent certain parts of the chorus parts. We had elements of contemporary sort of drums, but also the old style, like the 30s and stuff like that, 30s and 40s of music back in the 20th century. And I love the fact that we harkened back to those elements there with a lot of the jazzy infusions that we often hear in music nowadays that don't really necessarily fully commit to. And I think it was wonderfully done. The only thing they could have done closer was to use brushes, but we wouldn't have had necessarily the attack on the hits that we needed there. And usually brushes are for like a slower kind of vibe anyways. You had a really fast tempo to this song, which they managed to nail perfectly on the kit. But the bass line, the bassist was rolling with those 1, 2, 3, 4, doom, 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 doom. That walking bass line, not a note out of place there, eloquently and elegantly scooting around the various chord progressions, staying in time with the drums and keeping them in check as well. It was definitely one of the most active bass lines I've heard in a track in quite a while. And they smashed it out of the park. I'm really glad that they were that active within the track and not just staying to the root notes there necessarily. Because I don't think the chords moved as quickly. They were moving within the modes or like the triads of the chords, but at the same time, it was just really well done. The guitars were relatively laid back. Like, I mean, I know we had like on the start, which made sense again considering she had the Eddie Van Halen the guitar, got to do that tremolo stuff, right? But nonetheless, I think that we had interesting sort of melodies there. Maybe a little bit of chord stuff occasionally, but it was just kind of to be a good foil for what was going on with the keys there. And in general, I think we could have done more, but I don't think it would have helped with the guitars. I think as well, the keys as well were a fantastic partner for not only the guitars, but also as a foundation, I suppose, in a weird way, as well as the bass, drums, guitar. For the brass instruments like the trumpets and the saxophone, the brass section in general, with the accents there at the start of the hook parts there, kind of following along in there, kind of like delving their way around the place. I mean, there was a great diversity of different grooves and like lines there within some of the instruments there, especially like the drums, like in the second verse, how we completely sort of separated ourselves from the cymbals, went for more of a sort of a tom focus. At the same time, I think that what we had going on with the brass just kind of basically keeping it, again, that big band feel for the hook sections and making it bright and charming and energetic and uplifting was the smart decision there. We had a great sort of juxtaposition between the more complicated elements of some instruments versus the more sort of vital, important simplicity of others. And that made for a more kind of like easy to follow, accessible track. That was also lifted in part with the occasional sort of parallel minors and majors from the chord progressions there, unexpected changes there, sort of jazz, maybe even some 1-5-2 parts, 2-5-1 parts occasionally, but there might not have been. There might have been some modulations between chord progressions, I'm not sure, but I'd have to listen to it again, and I would. But yeah, just to clarify, the theme in the chorus is uplifting and positive and talks of having a hope for people to again connect like that. It's majorish and it's scintillating, and I'm so glad I got to hear it outside of the theme. It's wonderful. And knowing the words is actually a little bit of extra detail that I preferred having because it's just another dimension to an already enjoyable track outside of that. So it's good to have these captions. Well done to them for doing that. Finally, with everything basically being really well connected, it just comes down to the studio production, the recording, mixing, and mastering. They slammed it. It's commercial grade. I don't know what they feed these engineers over in Japan, man, but it's just wild stuff, dude. Some of the best audio production in the world from that part. It's sensational. It's never a bad time. And I love the clarity of all the different elements of the mix. The guitars, bass, drums, the vocals, the brass, the keys, etc. Everything, you could hear it clearly. And the frequency spectrum and the stereo field, things were notched well. It's not just an arrangement and composition thing, it's also a studio thing. If you don't have the EQing set properly, you're gonna have a real rough time. There was like minimal amounts of compression applied to stuff to give it a more sort of like live sound to the performance there. We didn't oversaturate stuff, although we did have a little bit of effects on the vocals just to kind of modulate and make it a little more synthy to some of the like that last parts of like the verse or the choruses or something like that as a transition where there were pauses, which I also appreciate. There were pauses in the track. There was great pace to it, but they allowed the listener to sit for a moment before things came back in and blasted off again. And it's just those little ebbs and throws which are really important in music. You can't have everything the same loudness all the time. People will just not retain interest because it'll just be too much of the same. And there was never enough of the same in this. Lots of variety in it. The leveling was top notch. It was nice and loud without pumping with sufficient dynamic range. And yeah, that's my very positive review of Mixed Nuts by Official髭男dism. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go check out their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Patreon video. Spiderhands out.